Well, greetings everyone. Thank you once again for joining us on our YouTube channel, CK Sports, where we discuss everything football in Uganda, in the region that is East Africa, on the African continent, and like we always love to say, sometimes beyond the African continent. Clive Chaze is my name, and we come to you all the way from Kampala, Uganda. And yes, from now on, I'll be adding on that the hosts for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations alongside Kenya and Tanzania. We are once again in Wandegea, that's in the capital Kampala, at the offices of Proline Football Club, who this year will, by the way, be celebrating 20 years of existence. And joining us today on the show is none other than the proprietor, director, founder of Proline Soccer Academy, together with Proline Football Club, or you can say that the Proline organization. That is none other than Mujiba Kasule. Mujiba, greetings and thank you once again welcoming us to your humble home and allowing to talk to us.
Greetings and once again you are welcome. And I'm also happy to be hosted again.
How are the preparations going? Celebrations of 20 years.
We are still in the planning phase. But we are planning very soon. We'll release a program that will be following, that will start with the second half of the year. Yes.
Well, Jiba, today we are going to discuss what I would say probably a very sensitive topic for many people out there who follow African football religiously, and that is the inter-club competition. On the continent, we have two competitions that involve clubs. That is the Champions League together with the CAF Confederation Cup, and of course the 2025-2026 season is underway. The group stages are done, and we are into the knockout phase of the competition. The draw was recent, but when you look at the 8 teams that made the quarterfinals of the Champions League, out of those, 6 of them come from the Maghreb. You're talking about Espérance, 5-time winners from Tunisia, Ahly, record winners of this competition, 12 times from Egypt. Of course, you have Farabat from Morocco, the defending champions, Pyramids from Egypt, RS Berkane from Morocco, the Al Hilal Odaman from Sudan, much as I want to believe they are from East Africa. And you only have 2 teams from south of the Sahara, that is Stade Malien from Mali, together with Mamelodi Sundowns from South Africa. But also when you look back since this competition started, this has always been the trend where teams from the Maghreb dominate club football while the others are just playing catch up. There was a time when TP Mazembe was rubbing shoulders with the teams from the Maghreb. That time is gone. Mamelodi Sundowns that did it for a short spell, should have been a season. They continue to compete, but not dominant with titles. You'll talk about a Nyimba 2003 and 2004 from West Africa, who tried to also be dominant for about 2 seasons, but it's not the case anymore. Well, as the East Africans continue to just be part of the party. And the big question is, why is this the case? It has always been the case, but why does it continue to be the case?
I think it goes down to one thing, that the Arab countries, for a very long time, from inception, they have done football development in the proper way. They have, first of all, invested. And the investment is not only coming from the clubs, but the investment starts with their countries, with their governments. For them, football is part of the life of the natives of those particular countries. So the governments have taken it upon themselves to develop the industry of football or sports in those particular countries. Of course, all of them, football is their number 1 sport. So they never leave football development purely for the clubs that play and their federation. The governments are directly involved in the development of football in their countries. And as a result, they have invested heavily and they follow their investments. So when you invest and follow investment in football, you make sure that the money is channeled and used properly. Then you see the development of those countries, youth football, they have the youth football, they have the structure, they have the facilities, but also now the funds of those particular clubs in those particular countries have also been energized to rally behind their clubs. And then later, the corporate government, the corporate world in those particular countries has also joined. So the investment is a lot and is being used properly. So the clubs are well financed. The academies and the structures are also producing players. So they don't lack quality players because they have invested in the coaches also. All of them are educating their coaches, not only in their particular countries, but also in Europe. They are looking for best education for their coaches. Their players, from when they are young, they are highly exposed to international standards. So when they filter through to the clubs at the top, they do not have only quality players, but well facilitated. They are paid enough to not even think about going to Europe. So they have the quality all the time. When you look at the other countries outside the Arab countries, football development has not been, is not universal. The football clubs are struggling on their own. The federations are also struggling on their own. The governments are not really investing or developing this industry of football in those particular countries. And as a result, you cannot get the best because you don't have a conveyor belt. Player remuneration is not good. Welfare is not good. Facilities, non-existent in many countries. So how are you going to compete with people who have planned and invested and followed their investment? So it becomes difficult. A case to show you that this method of the Arabs works. South Africa's football was struggling for obvious reasons. Back in the day, the apartheid, it was difficult. But after they gained their independence, of course, they were struggling with so many other issues. So they couldn't invest as much as they wanted to. But they quickly sat down and said, we are going to develop the industry called football in this country. And they started to do that. While they were doing that, they were struggling.
Even on the continent.
On the continent, you could hardly see a South African club competing in the Champions League or the equivalence of the Champions League.
They would always get knocked out at the preliminary stages.
Exactly. But they were planning. They were improving. They improved the league. They put the structures. They did youth football. They did women football in the background. And during that time, they didn't even have good players to play in their own league because they didn't have them.
But they had players playing in Europe. That's why probably the national team was performing the way it was.
Yes, they had players that had gone to play in Europe. They had a couple of those. But those that were producing through the league were not many. And those are the ones who are supposed to play for their clubs. So the clubs didn't have very good players. Where did they turn their heads to? To countries like Uganda, to come and get the best players. Remember the Oboas, the Serunkumas, Batabaire, Pesimotomoni, all of them were being ferried from here to go there.
And they did the same in the other countries, especially those around them.
Exactly. Zambia, Zimbabwe, and that's what they were doing. But they were in the background investing and doing the structures. 10 years after that, we started to see them emerging now. That's when you started to see Mamelodi Sundowns, Super Sport, Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates starting to compete. And that climaxed with Sundowns actually winning.
In 2016.
In 2016. And right now, since 2016, at least they have been having one or two who play at least in the later stages of the group set. So it benefited them. When you see now their national team, they don't have many players playing in Europe as it was in the beginning, but the ones who come from home have made a formidable team that has even qualified for the World Cup. And there is no shortcut to doing football things in football, to doing the right things in football. Those who have done it the right way, we see the results. So South Africa has mirrored what the Arabs do, and we can see the results of that. Look at our neighbors, Tanzania. I think they have woken up ahead of the rest of us
in the region.
And they are trying to do the same things. If you see the academies they are trying to establish in Tanzania, they are bringing the clubs like Real Madrid, you know, to set up academies there. They're giving them incentives. Their youth football structures are now very vibrant. You see now they keep knocking us out in CAF tournaments. Their league now is ranked number 6 on the continent. 15 years ago, they wouldn't even speak about their league, even as we are far ahead of them. So for me, that is the reason. There is no major reason why the Arabs are doing the way they are doing, apart from, for them, they have done football development the right way. And I think that is what is giving them the results.
Then how do you explain probably the success in bids for the clubs south of the Sahara? We've talked about Enyimba, 2003-2004, when they win the Champions League and defend it. Before you know it, they are not competing again. Sundowns, yes, they won the Champions League in 2016. It took them almost a decade. It took them 9 years to get back into the final, just last season when they were eliminated, defeated by Pyramids in the final. We've had a season where young Africans, might have been in 2003, made it to the finals of the Confederations Cup. Last year, Simba made it to the finals of the Confederations Cup. Today, those two teams cannot even get out of the group stages of the Champions League. Orlando Pirates last season went all the way to the final, or should have been, of the Champions League. Today, they don't even make it to the knockout stages. There was a time when Kaizer Chiefs actually played should have been in the finals of the Champions League. Ahly must have defeated them or something. Today, they are not back on the continent. They do a lot of investments. They get there when you feel it is now time for them to keep on pushing to bridge the gap with the Arabs. It does not it does not rather happen. They just crumb and disappear.
Yeah, because much as we see countries and clubs that are doing their best, the Arabs who are already ahead of us are also not sleeping. They keep improving. You've just been to Morocco.
Yeah.
Now see the level that they have gone at. 10 years ago, Morocco's infrastructure in football was not as big as it is now.
And the national team was struggling.
Exactly. But they keep thinking. They keep raising the bar. And for people who have been there at the top for over 40 years, for you to come and knock them off the patch, it takes a lot of reluctance from their side. But they are not They are not relaxing. They keep improving. They keep looking at the best practices. They keep getting the best coaches. They keep increasing the welfare of their players, the infrastructure. They host all these tournaments around the continent, whatever you want. They keep going. So it is going to be difficult for people outside that region to come and break through and permanently stay there, because the people they are fighting with, they have had the experience of doing it, and they keep ahead, one step ahead all the time, ahead of the others. And it is not unique to only the Arabs in Africa, but if you go to Europe also, the countries that have been ahead for 60 years continue to go ahead. Why? Because the more they see the benefits of what they are doing, the more they do more, the more they want to do more. And their dominance continues to either be Germany, you'll see England in there, you'll see France, you know. But for us here on the continent, for me, I think we have seen clubs that come in. Look at Enyimba. You know, it's very easy to set up a team, but to dominate, you need more than a team. What happened to the Enyimba team that was competing? They lost all their players in those 2 years. To what? To other clubs. Some of them even in the Maghreb zone, and others went to Europe. Why? Because Enyimba could not pay them well. So most of the clubs outside the Maghreb, they produce for export. The Maghreb zone, they retain.
They go to Europe to beef up their squad.
Exactly. For them, their agenda is to produce and retain. So That's why they pay them very well, because they want their players to stay. Their culture dictates that we shouldn't be exporting much of our stars. Let us retain them. What do we need to retain them? Pay them as good as they pay them in Europe. 1 or 2, 3 will go out. Let those exceptional ones who want, and the standards are quite high, let them go.
And they go for a good price.
And go for a good price. And when they come back to the national team, they make it even bigger. But a player in Egypt does not have to worry about going outside Egypt to play. In Uganda, a player is still playing in Masaza. He's thinking about going either to Rwanda, Somalia, because they are always looking for greener pastures. So they don't concentrate. So it is very difficult for these clubs to retain these players over a long period of time to compete. When you look at clubs like Espérance, Ahly, you see a player that joined the club at 17 and at 30 he's still in the same club and playing with a lot of experience, with a lot of exposure. Now for you, every 1-2 years you're breaking the team and building it.
You have a new team.
You have a new team. So how are you going to compete? Look at that Mamelodi Sundowns team that the Alan Okelos under KCC played. The experience they had. Because I remember even during that game, they were so confident. Even when KCC was playing, they were
so sure they were going to qualify.
Why? Because they had the experience, they had the exposure. They knew that they need a moment, and this team will give us a moment. While they were playing, they kept telling their fellow players on the opposition, telling KCC players, you are not going anywhere. Because they see the club, they see the level, and they see themselves, and those things have value when it comes to the game of football. And that's what you get from the Arabs. They have a lot of consistency. They manufacture and retain experience. And while they are doing that, they are looking after those players very, very well. Yanga has built a team over the years by looking at the best from around the region, and 1, 2, maybe they went even to Brazil. They brought the best ball coach and they built a good team. What happened? Egypt came knocking. They took their best player.
Wydad came for Aziz Ki.
Then exactly, because now the other people have placed themselves so high that now all these other clubs, they work for them in a way. You produce, they see a good player, they take him. They see a good player in Ivory Coast, in Nigeria, they take them. So it is difficult to compete with somebody like that. Although we see now many teams are doing it. Look at TP Mazembe when they dominated for about 3-4 seasons. The investment was huge. Remember, TP Mazembe, we are talking about over 10-15 years.
Early 2000s.
Early 2000. Remember, early 2000 they spent, late 2000 they spent 200,000 to buy Mike Mutiava. Now,
this is USD.
This is USD, a club that could afford.
El Merreikh in Sudan.
Exactly. Now, Tanzanian clubs now have reached that level now. They can pay 200,000 for a player. But TP Mazembe had reached that level many years ago.
You're talking about Tanzanian clubs spending that much, but they have also reached a level where a club from the Maghreb is bringing a bid of $1.5 million or even $2 million for a player, and they're saying we are not selling.
Yes. And you know why they are doing that? Because they know retaining players gives you so much as a club. Because that is experience. So if you sell, for instance, now they are also learning the business. If you sell your best player for $1 million, and that means you will not even get into the group stages, vis-a-vis retaining him and reach the semi-final. Once you reach the semi-final, the money you make is more than $1 million. So they start to look at these things. Whereas now in Uganda, when they bring 50,000, you might not have a say on whether you send the boy away or you retain him. Many will go and get him because of the conditions and the circumstances. So those factors now play into the strength of these Arab countries, clubs, vis-a-vis the rest on the continent.
Okay, because there's something that I observed during the Africa Cup of Nations. The younger first choice goalkeeper is from Mali, and he was the first choice goalkeeper of his national team. Then I looked at the bench, and the other 2 goalkeepers were playing in Europe. One of them was playing in Sweden. And they were starters no, they weren't actually starters, but you have a player playing on the African continent, a goalkeeper at that, starting ahead of 2 goalkeepers who are actually playing in Europe. That means that whatever he is putting in is actually worth it. And Yanga continue to hold on to this player, much as they have so many offers coming around in the region and elsewhere.
They know Yanga now has, over the years, they are competing with the very best. They are exposed to very big practices in the business of football, in the technical area, in the administration. The higher you go, the more you learn, the more experience you get. Now, the experience of the club now has taught them that the continued performance on the continent depends a lot on the ability to retain your players for some time. But this business of a player coming through and immediately you sell him cannot give you competitive advantage at the highest level. That's why now you see they are retaining players, and the way they were, look at the way they were playing in AFCON. Regardless who was in front of them, whether it is Morocco, whether it is Tunisia.
That's Mali.
No, Tanzania. In AFCON. They never looked shaken.
Exactly.
They were confident, they were assured. Why? Because their best players have been playing over 10 years at the top of Africa.
Because they had one or two players who play in Europe.
Exactly.
The rest of them are
the rest are from home. But because they have been playing consistently in the later group stages of these competitions, they have gained the experience. They have rubbed shoulders with Moroccans, with Tunisians so many times. So when they meet them in AFCON, they were not scared of them. Look at us when we played the same opponents they played. So that takes experience, and experience, you have to manufacture it by retaining players. You have to have that ability. And many African countries, they don't have that. They don't have the financial muscle to hold on to players. The clubs are struggling. They cannot pay players more than those who are doing well. At least they start with 2,000 as an acceptable remuneration for players. Now, for us, we're in Uganda, we can't even start to dream because we are still paying less than $500 to our best players. And that is common in many of these African countries. Those that are competing, you see a semblance of doing things the same way the Africans do. I've talked about South Africa. I've talked about now the two clubs in Tanzania. I know I have worked with APR. They are now doing the same.
Recently, the management of the Premier League in Rwanda were in Tanzania, I think, for a week, doing on a benchmarking tour of how they can improve their league. So you see that probably not only APR, but the league as an entity, there's a direction they want to take, and they feel they should be learning from the best in the region. Because at the moment, the Tanzanian league is ranked 6th on the African continent. As a few years ago, they were ranked 4th on the African continent.
Yes.
And you feel these two teams also playing on the continent, it is helping their league to get to that level.
Exactly. It is about those two. They're accumulating points by not only playing on the continent, but going as far as those tournaments are concerned. And that is key. We cannot look at Tanzania's story and ignore it. There is a reason why they are where they are now. There are things that they have done right. And for me, it is no mistake that the Premier League in Rwanda has gone there to benchmark. You have to do that. You have to ask these questions. How did they do it? And what can we learn from them? I also, like I said, I've worked around in Rwanda, and I see that they have dreamt, and now they appreciate that for you to get to the level, there are certain things you have to put in place. There's a certain route you have to take. There's no shortcut. You have to create that process and trust it. If you do that, you will. Tanzanians did it, and they trusted the steps that we are taking and the process, and it got them where they are now. They will struggle to stay there because as a country, in terms of talent, they are not up there with many countries on the continent. So they have to rely on getting players from out there. And now that competition of getting players, that raw material has also become very stiff because the other regions, the other clubs away from here, including those from Europe, are coming and getting them quite earlier, and they are competing now. So it becomes very difficult to find another Mayele in the region. As soon as you try to create one,
Pyramids
comes for them. So it is now the industry has become very complicated, tougher. So we can no longer sit and wait for things to do themselves. You have to be like Rwanda. You have to be proactive. Try to find a way to get yourself to do the right things, benchmark, get the right things in place, and get the funding, get every stakeholder in the country behind the plan and push. If you don't do that.
Yeah, because the other interesting story that also caught my eye during the just concluded January transfer window, still in Tanzania, they were trying to buy Stanley Nwebali from Chippa United, the first choice goalkeeper for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. If you're looking at goalkeepers on the African continent, you would probably rank him among the top 5 or even top 3 on the African continent. When you look at what he has been doing at the last 3 editions of the Africa Cup of Nations, they could not buy him because the Chippa United were asking for a very high price. Before you know it, Nwebali is terminating his contract with Chippa United. Right now, he's a free agent. We are waiting to see where he will end up when the window opens again. But that shows you which direction, like you did say, these clubs want to take. About 2 seasons ago, the same Simba had a Moroccan goalkeeper playing for them, and they brought him purposely for the Champions League or inter-club competition. Today, they are trying to get one of the best goalkeepers on the African continent because there's a direction they want to take, and they believe for us to be able to compete with some of the best, we actually need some of the best players on the continent in our corner.
Yes. Now, where they have reached in football, what we call exposure in football, one of the things a football player needs to get to the top, they need 3 things. One is development, the other one is nurturing, the third one is exposure. Now, exposure in football means get your players to play with the very best they can play with. Now, if you're on the African continent, the very best is Champions League. Then the second is the Confederation. Then also the national team. But the national team does not give proper exposure because Morocco can play Somalia, although they are the levels are quite apart. But for club level, you start like this, then they sieve you, then the men stay alone. Now, to play with the very best gives you the experience, gives you the learning of your players. They learn a lot when they play their best. Now, the clubs in Tanzania now know this. The fact that 8 years they have been playing in the group stages of these tournaments, they know what it takes to compete. If they want to stay there, they have to find the funding, they have to find the resources, they also have to find experts that have good eye for players so that they keep recruiting players that can play at that level. There is no 2 ways about it. If you are not the best, if you don't have the best, you cannot stay in the Champions League group stages 3 years consecutively. So once they get there, that is what they have to do. That's why once you get there, the things become even tougher. For us, we are now dreaming of just going there. Doesn't matter.
To get just into the group stages.
Now that is just a step. But the more you go there, the more you realize that you need best players from everywhere. They have gone to not only to Morocco. In recent years, they went as far as Brazil to get some players.
Sundowns goes to Brazil,
yeah, they have
Argentina,
been going to
Chile.
That's what now the bar.
They have a Portuguese.
The bar keeps going up. The bar keeps going up. Now, for countries like us, Uganda, who are waiting, I don't know for what to start, because we haven't even started on this process to take us there. So by the time we wake up, the bar will be so high in the sky that we can't even imagine to jump.
We are supposed to be playing catch up, but we have still not started on that journey of playing catch up.
We haven't. And the bar keeps rising, like I'm saying, and that is going to be detrimental. Last time when we were here, we discussed about our players and how we said we can't go to Europe through the direct route. We have to use route 2, but even that route 2 is becoming impossible for us.
Yeah.
Because route 2 would be, ideally, our players going to play in Tanzania. But can they play in Tanzania?
Tanzania or South Africa.
Exactly, because these countries also keep raising the bar to catch up with whoever is in front of them. Now, for us, we are just on the ground and admiring and lamenting and not doing anything about it. So very soon, not very soon, it is already happening. Champions League football is out of our reach.
Exactly. The clubs from West Africa, okay, now you have Stade Malien. You don't know for how long they'll be consistent. The other region or country that is trying to bridge the gap with the Arabs, like you are saying, is probably South Africa. And it is going to take them a little bit of time, but you see the process is there and the signs are there. You can say the same thing about Tanzania with Simba and Yanga, but you cannot say the same about the rest of the continent. Largely West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa. You can just pick out a few countries. Right now, you can just pick out Tanzania with Simba and Yanga. Then you can just pick out South Africa with the Sundowns, who have been at it for some good years. Orlando Pirates, who are also now waking up, taking interest. Then Stellenbosch here, Kaizer Chiefs here, and stuff like that. But the rest of the continent, we seem to be in the same boat like Uganda.
Yeah, because of the two strategies. The Arabs produce to retain. South Africa is doing the same. They produce to retain. West Africa will never bridge this gap because for them, they produce to export. So the players you see that are in Mali are not looking at making this club strong on the continent, dominate. They are looking for next route to Europe. And trust me, they will find that route very soon because that's what they are about. That's why their national teams are stronger, the leagues are weaker because they produce to export.
And when we had the CHAN, that is a representation of the leagues, you could see they still struggle to perform because their leagues were weak.
Yeah, because all their players, as soon as they come out, they go. The Arabs produce to retain, and they retain their players. A player will start, and he's playing at the top level in Champions League. Very good. Everybody admires him. Many offers come from Europe, but he stays with his Ahly in Egypt. He stays with the Espérance, you know. The few who choose to go, they go. But majority, they are comfortable staying. They believe in that process. The government is behind it. The clubs are behind it. So they retain their best players. For us, the rest of the continent, we produce to sell. We produce to sell. For them, they produce to retain. South Africa deliberate. Let us pay these players highly. Let us get the best facilities in the world to be also here, such that they don't admire to go away. 1 or 2, 3 that go for one reason or the other, let them go. But the concept is that majority of our players are retained to make our league stronger. And that's what the sponsors want. That's what the fans want. And we see when they go to the national team, after playing in a stronger league, they can also produce the goods. And that is the reason. The rest of us, we produce to sell. We struggle to make our league strong. Tanzania, when you look at their strategy, because they are low on talent, most of the people who play for them are also imported into Tanzania. Their players, because of talent, they can reach a level, but you see it is difficult for them to play in Europe because
they have 1 or 2.
1 or 2, yes. So for them, it is also easy to keep and retain the players for 10 years, as we have seen with some of the players who play for Young and Simba. So that has also helped them. But a Nigerian with talent, with the intention of being sold, will find his way to Europe. A Ugandan with talent will be looking to go.
Then how do countries like South Africa go about this? After the elimination in the Africa Cup of Nations, their coach, Hugo Bruce, came out and said for them to be able to have a strong, competitive national team that will compete with the likes of Morocco, Senegal, and the others, they need to start exporting players to Europe. Now, this is a country, like you've mentioned, their strategy is to hold on to their best players, pay them well so that they make their league strong. But their club, the coach is saying for them to have a strong national team, they need to start sending players in Europe so that they get used to those practices, just like the other teams that they want to compete with on the African continent that export lots of their players in Europe.
Yeah, I think for me, the best strategy is to have a balance where those that have reached the level of Europe, you let them go. And those are never many. If you have 5 players playing in good leagues in Europe, to come and find a strong foundation of the local players they can give you a very big national team. Egypt has always done this. This has always worked for Egypt. They have always had 5 to 7 maximum, but the 20 come from home. Even in this
time around, I think they had 3 or 2.
Yes, exactly. So you don't need many. But if you have a very strong league, the 3 that filter out to reach the standards of Europe are enough for you. As long as the league is strong and it's producing players who are playing on the continent in the later stages, for me that works. At the moment, South Africa hardly has any that you can talk about who plays in the major leagues in Europe.
I mean, their best defender, the young boy from Orlando Pirates, ended up signing for a team in the Major League Soccer. That's Chicago Fire. Well, so many people thought that if he had held on, played at the Africa Cup of Nations, probably would have gotten a better deal.
He would have. But South Africans naturally are not ambitious people. They get comfortable quite easily, and they like lifestyle. So those that choose to go to the US is because they have admired the country called the US. They have not looked at the football in the US.
Others say he was misguided.
Of course, but misguided. They use the aura of the country to sell it to you. You're going to America, and you know Africa. Every young boy, the dream is to go to America. And I see many of our players doing the same. They go to play in the USL, yet they had opportunities to play in Europe, where their path would be much clearer and better. They choose to go there, and their path ceased to continue. So South Africans, many of them admire. When we were in college in the US, we had many of them, but it's because they love the country. They don't look at these structures. So for me, that is what is affecting them. And that's why it is also easy for them to stay and be comfortable at home. Those who are getting good monies, they are comfortable, they have the best cars, they have the stardom. So
the endorsement deals.
They have the deals, so they become comfortable. But the ones who suffered through apartheid were quick to want to go to Europe for obvious reasons. And they went there, they struggled, they fought, and they competed. That regime now is long gone. The one they have here is soft in a way. And now to play in those top leagues, you have to have character and attitude. So I think before Hugo Bruce advises and encourages them to go to Europe, I think there's something they need to do, build character for their players and the right attitude to play in Europe. Once they do that, if they can have 5 with already the strong foundation at home, they can do it. Because for me, I admire the way South Africa plays football. Even in this AFCON that has just concluded, they were playing very well. I saw them here in Chan. They're playing very well. When you see Mamelodi Sundowns play football, they play very well. They have a style of play, they have a philosophy, and an identity. So for me, they are doing the right things, continue to do the right things, but those players you see with strong character, with proper guidance, they can easily end up in Europe and later make the national team even stronger.
As we wind up, you also happen to be a coach's instructor at CAF and FIFA level. Recently, there was a coaching course in Egypt for the coaches, and the youngest in that course was 55 years. And everyone kept on wondering, Egypt is not producing youthful coaches, and this was the first course they were having in a very long time. And the youngest participant was 55 years. What happens to the next generation of coaches in a place like Egypt?
They do revere experience a lot. And because they have had so many good coaches over the years, it's very difficult for the young people to filter through. When I was doing my CAF coaches instructors course, it was in Cameroon, but the CAF technical director was Egyptian, Shatta. So when we went for the CAF, not CAF coaches, but CAF instructors course, I was the youngest at 34. And I remember they removed me from class. They came in class and they asked me to leave. So when I went to office,
who was the second youngest? How old was the second youngest?
I think it was in their 40s. I was the only one below 30. And the issue was, what is he doing here? At 34, CAF coaches instructor. Because a normal coach starts the courses after retirement. And retirement is at 34. So you should be doing your fast coaching courses. But this is not even a coaching course. Instructor. That means you have done your CAF already. So they thought I'd forged my way into getting there. So they had to call FUFA here to verify and why I was there at that age, at 34. Had I taken a shortcut? Then, of course, Coach Asuman, who was the technical director here, had to explain that he started early. He's a graduate in the US. He studied courses there. He's done this. And at that time, I had already been a vice president in the federation twice.
Vice president technical, yeah.
Yes. I had also been chairman technical. So they looked at my CV and definitely they thought I'd forged it. Because in reality, coaches start their badges or coaching at 34. So the fact that this is an Egyptian, for him in his country, it was impossible.
Unheard of.
Exactly. That's why. So for them, they coach into their 70s. But the main reason why is that Arabs have very strong characters. As human beings, they have very strong character. A 34-year-old cannot handle a team.
You're too young.
You are too young to handle. They will not respect you. They will not, it takes a lot, and it is an Arab thing. So that's why their coaches become better after they have reached 50. That's when they have the aura, they have the strong character. That's when they can be respected for them to start coaching. So it is very difficult to break through the ranks in those countries when you are young. But 50 years, then they can start to look at you as a coach. You see the current coach, he has been coaching for a long time. With all the accolades, with all the pedigree that he has just found fit a few years ago to handle the national team. But before, you remember all their coaches, the Shahatas, they have always been that age. So for them, it is to do with the character of their people. When you are younger, sometimes you are 34 and the players in Ahly are all 34, 36. It is very difficult. But for us here, we are doing the opposite. We are getting rid of experience and we are bringing the I don't want to call them novices, but the young ones. But coaches do two things. They coach, they teach the game, but they also inspire. Now, it is very difficult for a young coach to inspire fellow young players who are his age. But when a coach is older, with experience, with a track record, immediately before he even starts coaching, players are inspired. Tomorrow, if you announce for any club in Uganda and you say, Mike Mutebe is your coach, immediately before he even comes to report to training, players' level go up. Players' levels go up.
Because it is Coach Mike.
Coach Mike. Immediately, before he even reports, their level of performance already goes up before he even steps on the football pitch. Why? They are inspired with that announcement and with who is coming. So the Arabs value this a lot. And that's why when they don't find anybody there, they will go for a foreign coach. Also older, because for them it is handy.
Well, looks like the discussion can't end, but you can let us know, first of all, in the comment section, your own observations or views why you think clubs outside the Maghreb struggle at the African level. That's in the Champions League, together with the CAF Confederation Cup. And what countries like Uganda, countries from West Africa, and these other countries around the continent need to do for them to be able to compete or be as good as the countries from the Maghreb. But thank you very much for always following our work on CK Sports. If you are yet to subscribe, statistics show that majority of you who watch our content, you haven't subscribed yet. So all you need to do is to click that button, and in a second you will be a member of our growing audience. So we have a lot lined up for you, especially around East Africa's preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations. We have plans of going to all these different countries, Kenya and Tanzania. But also the 2026 World Cup is around the corner, and we do have a lot lined up for you. Clive Chaze is my name. Yes, our guest today has been none other than Mujib Kasule, Director, Proprietor, Co-founder of Proline Soccer Academy, Proline Football Club, or Proline Organization. And this year, they are celebrating 20 years of existence. Catch you again in the next episode.